Hello, today I'd like to talk about writing your own matrix multiplication function in MATLAB. So write your own matrix multiplication function. The inputs are going to be two matrices. The output is going to be a matrix multiplication result. If the matrices are not compatible sizes, then you want to output an empty matrix. Test your function with inputs being a 4 by 3 and a 3 by 2. And of course, this yields a 4 by 2. Retest your function by swapping those inputs to see what happens. That should be that empty matrix output since that's not valid. Show your function, show the script use of your function. Obviously compare results with MATLAB's version. So let's do some of these things. First thing I did was I created some random A and B matrices. I've got just used the rand I to create a 4 by 3 for A, and the rand I to create a 3 by 2 for B. And I'm interested to see what A times B is. So I put B on the right, the 3 by 2, and A on the left, the 4 by 3. So in our code, what we want to do is we don't know the sizes in our code. We're going to be dumb, and we're going to figure out what the number of rows in A is, the number of columns in A, and we're going to figure out what the number of rows in B, number of columns in B. We're going to do that, and the output would be the 4 by 2, or the number of rows in A and the number of columns in B. That's what our output's going to look like. So A times B. So I've just kind of given myself some space to kind of see what the result's going to be, 4 by 2 result. And just hypothetically, thinking about maybe some kind of counter, going for A, we're looking at a row counter. Maybe we call that I. So, I is 3. We're going to look at that kind of thing right now. And then for maybe a column counter, maybe I call that J. So J is going to equal 2. So I'm thinking about, what if my row counter happened to be 3 and my column counter happened to be 2? Well, then I'd be looking at this particular location, the third row, second column output, and it's going to be a dot product. It's going to be a dot product of the row of A and the column of B, and that result, I think, is 258, just so happens, for this combination of numbers. And in order for this to work, that dot product, this dot product has to have the same number of values on each side. So the number of columns in A has to equal the number of rows in B for that dot product to work. And yeah, it's 258. Okay, I've created a file, my matmult1.m. So I'm going to define a function. I'm going to say C equals my matmult1, and my inputs are going to be A, B. I'm going to go ahead and put end, go ahead and get that taken care of. So I'm going to say, C equals, just for the help thing, matmult1, A, B, and then returns the matrix multiplication of A times B, empty on error. Okay, so I could go ahead and first of all say, the number of rows, number of columns. So I could do it like this, where I get the row column variables as scalars, size of A, and then I could grab that whole thing and then just copy paste and say the same for B. Okay, and then I could initialize C. C is what's being returned. So I could initialize C as an empty matrix just in case this first test fails. So this says that the number of columns in A, if it's not equal in MATLAB is a tilde equal, not equal number of rows in B, right? So it's a number of columns in A that should equal the number of rows in B. If it's not, then I'm just going to return. That's an error. Okay, so I'm going to return, and that's going to mean that the value of C that I've initialized is what would be returned. Okay, so if I get past that, I'm good to rock. So I'm going to say for I, I'm going to use that for my row counter. I equals 1 to number of rows in A. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my end for that. And then I need to do a nested for, so I'm going to say for J, that would be my column counter equals 1 to the number of columns in C. So I'll do that, and I'll go ahead and put my end. So I'm going to do that. So for each row in A and each column in C, I'm going to say C I, J equals something, right? So so the ith row of C and the jth row of, or jth column of C equals something. You know, I almost feel compelled to just go ahead and allocate some memory for C, and I'm going to allocate the number of rows in A, number of columns in B, like that. So yeah, just zeroed it out just so I know that this would never be a problem, so I can go ahead and rewrite any of those, or really all of them, and it would be A. So I want to take the row of A, which would be I, the ith row, and I want all columns, so I go with a colon there, and I'm going to go times B, and I want all rows of B for the jth column. And I put semicolons on those things. I think this might work. So I'm going to go File, Save. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to MATLAB. And I've got to change my directory to 27. So I see my matmult there. I've already got my MATLAB version of A times B. So when I do help my matmult 1, what do I get? Okay, so that's what I expected. All right, so let me say, I'm going to say C1 equals my matmult 1 AB. See what happens. Just kind of looking at them bird's eye view, everything's looking good there. I could do, you know, they're integers, so I could just do a straight C minus C1. And yeah, so this is all looking good. Okay, I thought about doing something crazy and actually doing this twice, a second way. So what I'd like to do is to save this matmult 2, I'm sorry, matmult 1 as maybe matmult 2. Okay, do this as a second way. So matmult 2, matmult 2, matmult 2, and this would all stay the same here. I want to initialize that, so I'm going to leave that the same for sure, especially here. But what I want to do is I'm going to replace this by manually doing the dot product. So to do the dot product, I'm going to introduce a third for loop with a third counter, and I'm going to let that counter go from 1 to A, C, and B, R. So I've got my counter in there, and what's going to happen to manually do the dot product, I've got to think about the IJ, the I, row I, J column, how I'm taking that and I'm accumulating. So I'm adding to what I had, starting with 0. That's a good reason to have that. Add to the current I, K, row I, K column of A times the K row J column of B. So I'm manually going through the dot product from 1 all the way up to the number of columns of A or the number of rows in B, and doing that manually for the ith row of A and the jth column of B, updating the IJ, row I, column J of C. So this should work too. So I'm going to save that. Just kind of double checking, no syntax. I think we're good here. Okay, let's go back to MATLAB. Just curious, help my matmult 2. Yep, it's looking good. I'm going to go C2 equals my matmult 2 A comma B. Yes, looks good. So I'm just going to go C2 minus C, again, integers. So, yep, looks good. So basically, I've shown you 2 ways of doing it. Okay, from our problem statement, we've sort of looked at 2 different methods of doing the function. You know, and think about how you want to do it. Soup to taste. After you do it and after you do some preliminary testing, reread the problem statement, and in your report and your homework, tell a technical story. It shows your function, shows your input and output matrices, shows its use, and addresses some of the other problem statement concerns, like showing that it's the same as what MATLAB has and whatever other observations you have. Okay, with that, I hope you've enjoyed it.